Hi, are you Betsy?
Oh, Alan, hi.
Yeah, Alan Frank.
Okay,
I guess we're co-meeting.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
what the paper said, so.
I saw the parties out there.
I was gonna
so-
say, they should be here. If they're not here, they should be here any minute, so you think both
Ready-
of them are
ready
here?
to go?
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Okay, I'll go get them.
Okay.
Hi there, I'm Alan Frank.
Hi, I'm Becky Hackbart.
Hi Becky, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, Alan.
I'm Betsy
Randy Cobb.
Kosher.
Randy,
Becky,
nice to meet you.
Why don't you sit there?
down there, please.
Randy,
Randy Cobb.
nice to meet you,
Nice to
Randy.
meet you.
Would
You
like
were
to see? I'm Betsy
Betsy.
Kosher.
Nice to meet you, Betsy.
We're your co-mediators for today. Okay. Oh, I've been looking for a necklace like that. Is that something you bought locally?
Yeah, actually, I bought it at a store in the Haymarket.
At that No Yes Gallery? Or
Not
No
at
Yes
that one,
Gallery?
but a different store.
Okay. Gee, I really like it. Do they have different styles?
They have several, and they're really inexpensive. You should.
Yeah, and it looks really nice on you
Thank
too.
you. Thank you. You should
That's
check
neat.
it out.
Yeah,
It's
I'll
a
have
good
to-
store.
Good.
I can tell you about it later.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, well, I want to tell you how much we appreciate you both being here today. My name is Alan Frank, as you know, and this is Betsy Kosher. And you can just call me Alan, and Betsy goes by Betsy. And how would you like to be called?
Oh, Randy is fine.
Randy?
Becky, is that
Becky?
okay?
That's very good. I understand that you were sent here by your supervisor where you work. And did he have a chance to sort of explain to you what this process is about?
A little bit. He said that we were going to be able to come here so we could talk about the problems we've been having, and especially in the last few months, and kind of how that's affected our jobs, and maybe what we can do about things to make things better.
Yeah, it sounds like you gave a pretty good explanation. You're here to kind of talk about what's happened in the past and see if you can come to some kind of agreement about what your needs are, and see if you can reach some kind of agreement then about how to solve this thing in a way that meets your needs. What were you led to expect from us, from your mediators? Did he talk at all about what role that Betsy and I were going to play here?
Well, a little bit. And he said mostly it was up to Becky and I to work it out, that you were going to help, see if we could, but that it wasn't like a hearing or anything like that.
Right, that's quite right. That's what we're here. We're here to help you out. It's our job is to sort of help you talk about what's happened in the past and talk about how we can try to make it better in the future. But it's not up to Betsy and I to solve the problem, to come up with solutions. Basically, it's your situation. You're the ones that are going to have to live with the solution, and our job is to help you find a solution that meets your needs. Did he say at all about what his expectations would be, about what Betsy and I would be telling him when this whole process is over?
Well, I didn't know you were going to be telling anything. I guess probably have to just tell him that we met and all of that, but
Well, I guess I thought maybe he's going to want to know if we can come up with ways to make things better between us, maybe what those things were.
Again, I think that's right. We're only going to be able to tell him, we're going to want to tell him, it's limited information. If you come up with an agreement, my understanding is that he would like to know what that agreement is, what you've agreed to, how you've decided to try to work things out in the future. Do you have any problems with that?
well, no, not as far as what the agreement is,
Right.
but you're not going to be kind of telling him what we talk about, or I mean, just kind of
Beyond.
yeah, like it's all my fault or something like that.
Exactly. If you don't reach an agreement, only message that we're going to convey to him is that you didn't reach an agreement. And we're not going to explain why we think you didn't reach an agreement or whose fault it was if anybody didn't reach an agreement, because after all, there's no requirement to reach an agreement. You reach it only if you're satisfied with it, only if it meets your needs. And if you do reach an agreement, you've agreed that he have a copy of the agreement, but nothing else. Everything else is confidential. Nothing else will leave this room. In fact, although Betsy and I will be taking notes, we'll throw those notes away when we're done. One thing that we might do, if we feel the need to, is we might take something that's called a caucus. And a caucus simply means a private meeting with each of you and the two of us. And if we feel like we need to maybe change the dynamic a little bit, or if there's information that might be released more comfortably if you were just there alone without the other party, or if you think that was the case, then we'll just meet with each of you individually. And if we do that, whatever you tell us during that meeting will stay between you, the person who told us, and the two of us. And we won't tell anybody, including the other one of you, unless you tell us that we can. So that way you
Okay.
can speak comfortably to us.
Okay.
We set aside the morning for this, the next 3 hours or so. Do you have any reason why you won't be able to meet for the next 3 hours or so?
As long as we could go by around noon or so.
Right. That's our hope too, to be out here by around noon. We'll try to work efficiently, but once in a while Betsy and I might feel we need a break, or you may feel we need a break. And if you do, feel free to say so. We'll stop off, use the bathroom, stretch, get something to drink, get our heads refocused, and we'll come back here and resume what we're going to be doing. I don't know if we have anything else we need to talk about. And so, Betsy, you want to start us going here?
Yeah, usually what happens is each party gets an opportunity to talk about their perspectives of why they're here, what the circumstances are. They're really, as I understand it, because it was a referral from your supervisor, it wasn't a matter of one of you choosing to come and having the other one agree to that. So basically it's just an opportunity for one person to start and then the next person will have a chance. Becky, would you be comfortable starting?
Sure, and just to
Okay.
tell you kind of why I'm here.
Yeah, what your perspectives are, what happened that led you to coming to mediation.
Okay. Well, I guess I don't know how too far to go back, but I've been a plant manager and operator for about almost a year, just short of a year. And I was excited to move into that position. Prior to that, for about 2.5 years, almost 3 years, I was working as an administrative assistant in more of the administrative offices of the company. And then just a little under a year ago, I moved over to be one of the plant managers. And I was excited about that, but it's been a difficult year. It's been difficult working with Randy, and I guess there's been lots of different instances where we've had conflicts over the last year, and it really, what I think the culmination of that, and what I think that sent us here, or had the supervisor look into options of how to solve this situation, was that Randy had put up a Playboy calendar next to our lockers, and I found that offensive, and it was a clear violation of our sexual harassment policy. And so I filed a complaint about that, and things hadn't been great up until that point with our relationship, and after that it was really just downhill.
That's just a culmination point then.
Yeah, there have
to
been
what isn't
problems up
building
until that, and then I filed that complaint, and which ended up, Randy had to meet some criteria to fulfill what he needed to, being charged with something like that, and that didn't help our relationship any.
So when you say downhill, what do you mean by that? After that, what happened after that?
Well, the things before and after are just petty things happening. The way that our shifts work, that might help you understand things a little bit, is that I come in at 7 in the morning and take over after Randy's been there all night. So we don't actually really even work together, but since we're the managers, what I do on my shift and what he does on his shift impacts each other as we sort of blend our shifts together. I've had some problems with Randy maybe not doing his share, what I think is his share of the work. One time there was something that's called a bar screen that needs to be cleaned, wasn't cleaned on his shift, meant I had to do that on my shift. He leaves tools lying around sometimes that I feel it's not my job to pick those up, that should have been picked up on his shift. Things like that have been.
You just felt like you're needing to do work that you think he shouldn't do.
Right. And he's been there a long time, and I'm a new employee basically at the plant, and I'd like to think that I give 110%, and I think I do. And so I haven't necessarily minded doing some of those things, but I guess after a year and I'm still doing them, and I feel like I'm picking up more and more slack, become a problem.
So you just sort of feel like you're doing more than your fair share of the work.
Right.
Well, Randy, why don't you tell us what's your perception of the situation?
Well, I don't know about doing the fair share of the work and all of that. I mean, I've been plant operations manager in the evening shift for 7 years at the wastewater treatment plant here, and you know, worked there for a while before I got to this position. And there's just been this you know, trouble with the communication here with Becky, as she's been doing the work during the day shift. I mean, this whole thing got kind of out of hand. I mean, there was no sexual harassment to begin with, and it was certainly not the intent of hanging that thing there. It was kind of the culmination of kind of the arguments that we've been having about the space we share as the break room, the place where you have your lunch or dinner. And she's got some kind of overdone ideas about how that should be, how clean that should be, and we were kind of having some arguments about that. And I just, you know, that was, you know, we've always had, I guess, at the plant, kind of the spirit of joking around, kidding around, and that kind of stuff. And that was the whole intent behind that. There was nothing sexual about it. And I had to go, you know, because she didn't talk to me about it and let me know how that she had found that offensive, you know, she reported it instead to the EO officer. And so I got that in my record now, and I had to go to this day-long class. And I mean, I learned some stuff there, and I understand how, you know, that could be interpreted as sexual harassment and was in violation of the policy and everything. But you know, we do that kind of kidding around all the time, and that's certainly something that's not going to happen again because, you know, I can't afford to have that.
You were surprised when she found that to be offensive?
I was surprised when she went to the EO officer about it because it wasn't anything about that. I mean, I guess it was kind of a mean-spirited thing when I did it, so I wasn't, I mean, part of the objective was to make her mad, but it wasn't anything sexual like that.
So things had escalated to the point you're both trying to make each other mad.
Yeah, we kind of,
take each other off.
like she said, going downhill, we kind of, you know, did things back and forth like that. Like I was really mad about how upset she got about she says the bar screen wasn't cleaned. You know, our job is to oversee the operations of the plant, to make sure that things get done when they need to get done, you know, that things move through the system in an orderly way. And that involves a lot of routine stuff that, you know, you can do when it needs to be done, and then there's a lot of downtime until it's time to do the next thing, so you kind of amuse yourself or whatever, unless there's some kind of an emergency or something comes up, and then we have to troubleshoot or get it fixed or whatever. And that's what happened on that night, where I had spent most of the night working on to replace this one motor that had gone bad, and so I didn't have time to clean the bar screen. Well, it's no big deal. I mean, there's plenty of time to do it on the day shift, but she just got all bent on a joint about something like that, and that led to kind of retaliation kinds of things, because then you know, she didn't clean out this other thing that that's normally done during the day shift a couple of times, and we had to do that. And I know that that was just kind of to get back at me, so I kind of started finding reasons not to clean the bar screen every once in a while, you know, every couple of weeks or so. So it just kind of escalated and started to get out of control.
So it kind of elevated to kind of going back and forth, setting each other up to get angry and angrier, to retaliate, and kind of culminated in the putting up of the calendar by the lockers. Is that?
Yeah, but that's, you know, why we're here is to see if we can figure out a way to get this working relationship back on track. I mean, the sexual harassment thing, that's all done already. I did the course and all that, so it's
You learned your lesson from that.
Okay. So
And I wasn't so angry. I wasn't threatened. I didn't feel my job was threatened, and I wasn't so upset about necessarily the calendar, but just the fact that Randy would do something like that, and I knew that he did it on purpose. And although I personally didn't find it so offensive, I wanted him to make a point that that kind of behavior was irresponsible and that it could be exceptionally offensive to someone,
Mhm.
and he needed to learn a lesson not to do that. And
It was a serious thing.
right, I wanted him to know how
Serious.
serious it was. So I do agree with Randy in the sense that that's sort of behind us, and it's really just a part of the whole. It's one of many problems that we're having.
Well, I think we kind of have a feel for the circumstances that brought you here, but it seems like it might be important to hear a little bit more about your work environment and kind of your the environment in which you operate. You indicated that you started with the company as an administrative assistant,
Right.
and Randy, you indicated that you've been with the company for 7, or actually in this position for 7 years. Becky, tell me a little bit about how you got your job, the one you have now.
Well, I went straight to the administrative assistant position out of college. It was, well, not quite straight there, but I finished my master's and I have a degree in engineering, and this is a field that I want to work in. However, a lot of the positions like Randy's and some of the upper management positions are held by men that have had those positions for some time. There's not a lot of turnover, and so it's difficult to enter in at that level. And so after I struggled and wasn't able to do that, I took this administrative assistant position as a way to get my foot in the door and learn more about the company and try to work my way up. And that's essentially what I did. I was able to, they saw that I wasn't having my potential maximized at that job, and after a couple of years, when this new plant manager position opened, someone retired and I was able to step into that position.
So as a woman, you felt like the only way you could get into a position like Randy holds is by a stepping stone of taking a more traditional job?
I think in some ways I feel like that. I wouldn't want to hinge all of it just on my gender, but it's a difficult field to be in as a woman, and that was the way that I entered. A lot of guys, I think even Randy, worked at the plant originally, and that's how they made their way up into management positions at the plant. I tried that, was turned down for a job that I applied at the plant, and kind of came through the other route.
Okay. How many women are there in the positions that you hold and in other positions in the company?
I think there are several different plants, and I think there might be 2 other women at the managerial level that I'm at, but I'm the only woman manager at this, only female manager at this particular plant.
What's the working environment like for being the only woman?
There are a handful, maybe 10% of the workforce there that are women in other positions. There are some custodial positions, a couple women that actually work in line on the plant or working with the machinery. It's difficult sometimes. I feel a little bit more like I have to prove myself. But overall, it's pretty good. The guys are pretty good to work with. And
How about the pay?
that's tough. We don't really have an open book system. I don't really know
So you don't
what
know if it's
everyone's
the same?
salaries are, but I'm sure with someone just starting like myself, certainly don't have the salary that some other people with seniority have. But I don't really know how the male works out with pay scale.
So in some ways your treatment is different because you're a woman, is that what you're saying, or do you know?
I'm not sure I'd say that, but I think what's reality and how I feel sometimes may not be the same. Maybe sometimes I do feel a little bit pressure because I am a woman to excel and prove myself, but I think that may come as much from inside of myself as it does from the way other people make me feel. So I think it's just a challenge. I try to look at it like it's a challenge to be a woman in this field.
And you said you approach your job that way too, that you want to get the feeling you want to do a good job, and maybe because you're a woman you have to work that much harder to,
I'm a perfectionist as it is,
no
so.
matter what environment.
Well, let me ask Randy a couple of questions. So, one of the instances that came up with involved called a roll screen, is that right? Or a bar screen?
Bar screen.
Bar screen.
Yeah, it collects all the stuff that out of the wastewater that comes in that wouldn't be able to go through our, process where we, use biological agents and other things to remove the waste, take out the heavy metals and that kind of stuff, the chemical screens and everything. This is kind of like the first thing that the water comes through and takes care of, things that people throw down their toilet that are like hard plastic or something like that.
It sounds like a messy job.
It's not too pleasant. That's kind of the stuff I started with, when I started working at the plant. But now, the reason that we're in the position that we are is because we know how the whole thing works and know what needs to be done and all that. So I don't have to get down there anymore.
You just have to make sure that the people under you.
Know when to do it and get it done and that kind of stuff.
And from what I understand, that Becky said there was at least one instance where it wasn't done on your shift, and that's one of the things that led to all these escalating incidents. Is that right?
Yeah, but like I said, that was one of those not, rare circumstances. I wouldn't say rare like in the sense it never happens, but a couple times a month something will come up where you got to get off your regular schedule and fix something or do something that you're not expecting to do otherwise. And that's what happened then. But I never even got a chance to talk about that because she was all into back on punctuality. You show up for work on time and then you leave work for me to do that you're supposed to do and all this stuff. I never got a chance to explain it. And I got kind of hot. I mean, I told her to go back to the typing pool where she belonged, and I know that's probably not right, but I was hot.
What explanation would you have wanted to give her? What would you say to her now about why that happened?
Well, just one of these motors on the things that continually stir. It's kind of a slurry to keep it aerated while this kind of speeds up the biological process. Otherwise, it'd take a long time. Keep the stuff from settling out, keeps it all stirred up. So that stuff's got to be constantly agitated. And one of the electrical motors burned out, and we had to put in a replacement. And that took like 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
See, I never.
You didn't have time to get to that.
Right.
See, I never knew that, and I'm not sure what you're saying. We didn't have a chance to talk about that.
Well, because you were right in off the bat, like, well, first of all, you never show up to work on time, and second of all, you leave this work for me, and just kind of we got arguing before we got a chance to really talk about the reasons why.
So, go ahead.
No, so you're changing shifts, and sometimes you need to communicate things to each other about what's happened in the prior shift.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are a couple of ways that happened. I mean, I work from 7 to 7, and she works at night, and then she works from 7 to 7 during the day. And so on the days that both of us are working and we have a transition like that, during the course of your shift, as things happen, like a batch of stuff will be moved to the next or whatever, you write that down in the log for that, and so that's all keep track of, so there's that communication. But other than that, it's just kind of, if we happen to see each other as we're coming on, going out, you might say something like, gotta make sure we get that filter backwash today or something like that.
So it sounds like you need some more regular ways of communicating that both of you feel comfortable with.
It doesn't make you feel frustrated and you feel angry. It sounds like the way it is right now is raising the elevation of anger and frustration.
Well, and that hurt because once you're mad, then it's harder to talk.
Or if you just like hang a clipboard there where both you can see it and sort of do an end of the shift message. We didn't get this done for this reason. And both of you could kind of make sure you always write on the clipboard.
I don't know if that's so necessary.
That seems like something extra that we wouldn't really need.
Because you
we're
kind of, like
already-
you said, you write in the logbooks
Yeah.
already. I'm not sure that would help so much, but
Oh.
I think that the problem is still an issue. The problem of trying to communicate while we just overlap briefly, but I'm not sure what
Yeah, I
the
don't want to
solution
redo
to that
everything I
is.
do on the logs already
No.
anyway, so.
So you have, for some things, some ways of communicating. I'd be be interested in exploring that a little bit more in terms of, it sounds like it's an issue of how you overlap, or your timing of, you're coming on and you're going off. Can you talk a little bit more about that in terms of what happens typically when, how your shifts interplay or overlap?
I think one of the problems is that Randy's worked all night, so I'm sure I would feel like this if when he's ready to go in the morning, he's tired and he wants to, get the heck out of there, and I come on and I'm pretty, energized and pretty intense because I'm sort of, I gotta get to work, I gotta figure out what's going on, I have to, find out what I need to do for the day, and get everyone kind of motivated and started. So
You're ready to get going.
yeah, so I come in and I want to find out what's going on, and Randy really wants to leave, and
You're tired.
is tired, maybe forgets to tell me stuff, I don't know, but I think that's a problem that we need to figure out.
So in the process of you're coming on and you're motivated and energized and ready to kind of hit the ground running,
Right.
and you're winding down, you've had a day behind you or your night behind you, you're tired, so fatigue is a factor in your communicating. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm ready to get home and get to bed because, part of the reason that I stayed on the night shift when the old guy that was doing the day shift left, the job that Becky's got now, is because I like being on the night shift. Then, I've got the afternoon and evening, I go home and sleep right away, but then by the time my kids get home from school, then I'm waking up and I can be there with them after school till my wife gets home, and we can have a little dinner all together. And then I can help the kids a little bit with their homework, or we can do something, in the evening, and then, go to work. So
Give you some quality family time.
that's what I like about this job. I like my work, sometimes it's kind of boring, it gets routine and everything, but it's a good job, and then it gives me this, time to be with my family during the day. I worked at the plant for a long time and, punched the clock an hour. We're not hourly wage workers anymore, and so one of the things that's been kind of frustrating to me is how Becky is always on about punctuality. My shift starts at 7, you need to be here at, 7 p.m. I'm talking when my shift starts.
Right.
You need to be here at 7 p.m. That's most of the time I'm there then, but sometimes I'll get, involved with something with the kids where like want to help finish the math assignment, or we're reading a story or something like that, or if we decide to go, someplace, maybe not get back on time. But, I'm never more than like a half hour, 40 minutes late, and over the course of a 12-hour shift, that just doesn't amount to that much. And I'm sure that, if we could work out some kind of flexibility, Becky would probably want those same kind of things once in a while, where you could come a little bit late or something if you wanted to, and we could just work those out. But she's just like, like she'd be punching a clock again or something.
Yeah.
You really appreciate the ability to take advantage of those moments when they arise.
Yeah.
And what's your perspective on
Yeah,
that?
you said punctuality 3 times, and so I kind of wanted to hear Becky's perspective on what that means to you.
Well, the problem is I can appreciate the interest that Randy has in his family, but that creates quite a burden on me when he's even 20 minutes late, because I might need to leave to go somewhere. So, and I have to stay at work until he comes, because there needs to be a manager on. So not knowing if he's going to be on time or half an hour late is a big problem for me, especially when it happens so randomly and I never know what's going on.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know whether it was just this kind of retaliation thing that we got into, but I mean, you've been late too.
Well, I wanted you to know what it felt like.
So it was retaliation in your mind when you were deliberately came late?
Yeah, I have to almost make an effort to come late, because I'm really, I'm usually there a few minutes before 7, so that I can get my stuff put away and get going.
So because there's been, my sense is this makes it kind of unpredictable. It's not, and that's unsettling to
Very
you.
much so,
And so
yeah.
you wanted to create that same kind of feeling of being unsettled, so he could understand.
Well, all of this retaliation stuff is, it's embarrassing, you know, I'd like to think that we've gotten to the place we are because we're professionals. But
Wow.
I've tried, you know, talking to Randy and I know that it seems like little things to him, and maybe they are little things, and I just am, you know, as a newcomer, I just need to get used to the way things are, but it just seems like some of the things I've mentioned in passing in the morning have gone, you know, in one ear and out the other, and so I have done some things over the past few months, especially to let him know how it feels, because I thought that might have a greater impact than, you know,
What other sort of
complaining.
things? What other sort of things?
Well, like the blackened fish.
What was that about?
Well, when there's a break room for employees where we have a kitchen, and it's important that that stays clean. I mean, there's custodial people that clean that on occasion, but
That would be their job.
well, but we can't leave it like that day after day. Well, what happened was Randy must have spilled some lasagna or some spaghetti lasagna, something or other, and you know, didn't take the time to clean it up for whatever reason.
How did you know he was on school design?
Well, I knew it was something that had spaghetti sauce, so I asked around, and they had mentioned that Randy had lasagna in there. His wife makes a mean lasagna. Anyhow, I think where I was, he didn't clean that up. So when I came on, I didn't like to see that mess, so I cleaned it up. And then, you know, something like that happened again. Well, then I cooked some fish in the microwave and left a fish mess in there for Randy to deal with.
Yeah, not just the mess, but the smell.
So you found that kitchen stuff particularly irksome, I got the sense that he wasn't cleaning up.
Well, it's that, and he leaves some tools laying around, and that whole thing of I'm going to pick up the slack, and maybe me being the woman, it sort of feels like a little bit like I'm going to clean the kitchen and pick up after everyone.
Well, that's the thing, you know, when you say pick up the slack, it's not slack. I mean, I do a good job, and I do the things that need to be done, and I've got no complaints about the work that Becky does either. But then we get to these little things like, you know, tools laying around are slack or something like that. Well, I mean, for me, having tools there where you need them is good, and that's so that you can get your job done and all of that. And you know, keeping the kitchen or whatever you call the break room, you know, bust and police, you know, clean up your own mess after you eat and all of that stuff. That's an important thing, because you know, I don't want to clean up somebody else's mess the same way I don't want to clean up mine. But then, you know, if you drop a lasagna on the floor or something like that, and you scrape it up, but there's still stuff there, I'm not going to go grab the mop when I know that that's the janitor's job to mop that floor. And I don't know exactly when they do it, but they do it, you know, regularly and all that. And so it's like suddenly it's slack if you're not doing all this extra stuff. I mean,
That I guess you never had to do before?
yeah, the plant's running fine, everything's getting done.
So you see it's somebody else's job to really keep the kitchen clean. It's your job to sort of keep
Well,
it.
what's clean? I mean, it's clean.
So, let me ask you, so you also mentioned tools, something about you like to have your tools close to you, and you had mentioned tools earlier about leaving tools around. It sounds like there are different perceptions about the handling of tools. What's your perspective?
Well, I mean, I guess maybe part of this is just being new. When I was trained, I was shown where the tools go, and you know, I guess I still feel sort of I have to prove myself a little bit, and that was where I was told the tools go, and where I was shown that I could find them, and so I've always thought that they need to be put back there, especially at the end of every shift, so that the new people coming on will know where to find them.
So the tools aren't where you're expecting to be, or where you're told
Right,
to be.
so when but you know, the guys that work on my shift, come on and they come to me because they need to fix something, and then I have to take time away from what I'm doing to go help them look for things. So, I don't know.
What's your situation on the tools?
Well, I mean, I guess I can see that, you know, wanting to know where things are and everything, but, and yes, you know, technically, you know, when you went through and they said this is where the things are stored and all that, That's right, but that's the same kind of nitpicky thing like, you know, violating the sexual harassment policy. You know, technically it was, but it wasn't the spirit of what was going on. And I just, you know, making sure all the tools are back every night after every shift, when you know that, you know, this work is still ongoing and they're gonna need that same tool, just leave it there where it's gonna be needed. It just makes more sense to me. I mean, it's not like a menace to plant operations or something.
So if you're gonna go back to a job the next day, you like cool there and not put them back and.
Or even something I know they have to do on the day shift as well.
Uh-huh.
The tool is there, rather than like, you know, me carting it down there, or whoever I've got doing the job, carting it down there and then carting it back and all that stuff. But I mean, I hear what Becky's saying about, you know, if you don't know that's where the tool is or something like that, you could waste a lot of time looking for it or something.
So if we're to look at both the lunchroom and the tool situation, it sounds like what's important to you is to do what's necessary, but not so it's burdensome, too burdensome, in terms of cleanup and
That's a
putting
pretty
on,
good
stuff
word.
like that.
Yeah. I mean, before when we were talking about not doing a good job or something, I mean, I do a good job and I have all along.
And that's important.
Yeah, and that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a different idea about what
What a good job is.
Yeah, what has to
Okay.
be done.
Okay. And for you, Becky, looking at, to some extent, well, particularly with regard to the tools, that it sounds like predictability is important to you. You know where they're supposed to be found, and also to follow what's expected of you is
Right,
important to you in
right.
terms of being new.
Yeah, and I don't think I really don't feel like I have the luxury to do things my way. I sort of am, you know, still following,
Going by the books.
yeah, going by the books, and so that I make sure I don't make mistakes. And you know, this is a step for me in the direction I want my career to go, not even a permanent job necessarily. And to move myself up the ranks, I'm going to need to give 110%. And I guess this is my way of doing it.
Okay, I think maybe in order for us to give 110% to what we're doing here, we might need to take a little break.
Yeah.
Just relax for a minute. Does that sound good to you guys?
Yeah, I could use the restroom. Where are they at again?
Okay, it's let me show you. Right through this
I
door.
don't know if you want to get a refill on your coffee?
Sure.
And just go to your left and then take your right. Okay.
Okay, we'll see you in a couple minutes. We'll come get you.
Thank you.
Okay, did you get a chance to wind down a little bit, get a drink of water? Okay. All right, well, we're going to continue here. What we had a chance to do was to kind of sift through the information that you've shared with us in response to our questions and your explanations of things, and trying to see if we could identify what the main issues are with regard to the situation, and then what's important to each of you on either end of those issues. And what we did was, in the middle, we've set up the issues, and so we thought both the kind of your view of each other, the sexual harassment claim,
Yeah, I don't know why
Can you hold
that's...
for just a second so I can go through this, and then we'll have a chance to discuss each of these.
Okay.
Communication, timing, kitchen pickup, maybe the standards of that, and then also the use of tools. The first one was a view of each other. It seemed, and what we want is feedback from you, as to whether this seems accurate or not. That it's important to you, Becky, to be perceived as a competent, hardworking person who is worthy of advancement.
Yes.
You indicated that you really want to move forward in your career.
Right.
Okay. And Paul, that you are an experienced person in the plant. You have a lot of knowledge, and you like to be viewed as an efficient worker. Does that seem accurate?
Yeah, to that point. so far,
Okay.
huh?
The second issue that we thought was important from what you said was the issue of sexual harassment, that it's really important to you to be respected and keep things in the work environment on a professional plane. And that for you, you're interested in having a more easygoing environment, and that your reputation is important to you and what this may have done, and that this was a pretty important issue for both of you.
Well, it is, and that's true as far as it goes, but, I mean, when you're talking about setting aside time to talk about these things, that's one that we've already taken care of. I mean, that's the one where I had to go for the whole day to the sensitivity training, the sexual harassment training and all that stuff, and I've said it's not gonna happen again. So, I mean, it is true that I'd like to have a more easygoing environment where we can have the sense of humor and kind of, you know, joke to break up the monotony a little bit about that. We've always done practical jokes and stuff, and it looks like Becky may not be as comfortable with those things, and we can leave her out of it, but as far as anything that even looks like sexual harassment, that's not gonna happen again, so I don't know why, you know, we should have that up there.
Well, I got a sense that, from what Becky was saying, that this is a pretty, well, the fact that you both raised it, but that it was a real important issue, particularly in terms of your working environment, that there's some concern about it maybe not being as fair an environment for women.
Oh,
I guess
what am I supposed to do about that? I mean,
Well, I'm not sure, I mean, I'm not sure that, I wanted to convey that necessarily. I think what was most important for me was that Randy understand that what he did was inappropriate, even if it was joking around, that something like that, sort of a step beyond a practical joke, especially when it violates our policies, and that was sort of the culmination of some of this back and forth stuff. And but I know that he went through the class, and I'm willing to take him at his word, and that he's come to understand more of the parameters of what sexual harassment could be interpreted as, and that he won't do something like that again, even if he wants to retaliate.
So
and even if I did, then I would be in serious trouble. I mean, this is, a spotless record now has my little reprimand in there for doing this in the first place, which is, you know, something I can't afford to risk again. I mean, so aside from the fact that there was no intention for it to be harassing, you know, I would never do anything like that again just because I can't risk it.
So both, I guess since both of you just kind of put the sensitive behind you now.
Well, I'd like to.
are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, it's been good to talk about it a little bit more here, and I'm comfortable. There's nothing I want to do about it anymore.
Okay, so, okay, well, we
I
can
think we can move on here.
eliminate that off the list.
Another issue that Betsy and I saw was the issue of the communications between the two of you. Becky, you would like to have some clear understanding of what happened on that past shift and what might be different or unexpected for you to do in the next shift. And if you were left work that normally would be done on Randy's shift, you sort of like to know why that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And that not only some mechanism for communication be established, but that there be follow through, so that there's clear understanding on both sides about what happened and why it happened and what has to be done. And Randy, for you, you want any communication, Becky, to be direct, not behind your back, not over your head, but that she should talk to you first, and only if that's not satisfactory, we maybe think of some other things.
There's always, you can always go up another level if you can't get it settled directly.
But now another issue is the issue of timing and when the shift begins. Becky, I guess that's for you. Your certain time's supposed to begin, and that's when it's supposed to begin. You don't really care to come late yourself, and you want to be able to get out of there when your shift is done. And Randy is sort of like you're tired of pushing clocks all the time, and that kind of stuff, the kind of predictability isn't as important for you. And an issue of the kitchen and keeping it clean, what the standards ought to be. Becky, I think what Betsy and I heard you say is that you want the work to be done equally. It's not your responsibility to be the cleanup person anymore than anybody else's particular responsibility, that people should clean up after themselves, and that you want to be able to eat in an atmosphere that's clean. And Randy, you say, that's fine, but there are other people there who are supposed to be cleaning it. It's not your primary responsibility, and the expectation should be that those people will do their jobs. And on the issue of the tools, Becky, you're sort of new, and you've sort of been told where the tools are, and you think they ought to be in that place where you're told that they were. On the other hand, Randy, you feel that sometimes it's much more convenient to have the tools closer to the job that needs to be done that particular week, rather than to constantly put them back and forth. And sometimes those tools are pretty heavy, and it'd be just easier for everybody if they stood where they were. Are there any other issues besides the ones that Betsy and I thought of that you think need to be kind of talked about today?
Well, I think if we can clear up the communication part of it, it's gonna clear up a whole bunch of this stuff. So I can't think of any other, specific issues that we need to talk about, because if we could get that kind of relationship back on track, good working relationship, that'd take care of a lot of these kinds of things.
So you put kind of communications on the top of your agenda for things to talk about?
Oh, I guess so. I didn't know. I just was saying I can't think of anything like kitchen or tools or anything more that we need to list, because they'll kind of take care of themselves.
Well, if we were to take these one at a time, what one would you be interested in starting off with?
I think communication probably is sort of more fundamental than the other ones.
Okay.
Okay, you ready? What we'd like to do then is just to think about the means of communicating with each other, how that might be done, or the ways of making sure that whatever means we have is accomplished, ways of making sure that each of you follow up on each other. Any ideas that you have about improving the way you communicate, especially during that time when those shifts are changing? That seems to be the particular time.
This is kind of a brainstorming opportunity too. You just kind of think of all kinds of different ideas, and we'll then assess those ideas to see how they work for you.
Well, it sounded like, one of the problems is that we only have just that little bit of time. When I'm thinking about going home and going to sleep and you coming on the job, maybe if we left, like for those times when there's something that came up and you'd want to know why the bar screen wasn't cleaned or whatever, I could just leave you like one of those yellow sticky notes there in the break room and write that down.
That's possible. There's part of me though that wants to have some time for face-to-face conversation more than we have now. And it's difficult because when we come on, we may see each other just at the front of the plant where everyone else is kind of coming and going too, and it's kind of distracting and hard to talk there sometimes.
Well,
I
yeah,
don't know if
everybody,
maybe we
the
could.
whole shift is kind of changing, and
Right. People want my attention. People are saying goodbye to Randy.
well, I mean, I could hang out in the break room a little bit, wait for you to get there. We could talk there or something, rather than, just wait and see, where we, because sometimes I'll already be in the parking lot when she's there, and other times she'll be all the way up, putting her stuff in her locker by the time I'm getting ready to go and stuff, so.
So each of you could stay a little bit longer on your shift to make sure you have a chance to communicate with each other. That's what.
Well, now that's an idea too, is maybe you could just come a little bit earlier, and then have more time to overlap or something, if you came in a half hour early or something.
I mean, I like the idea of having some face-to-face time, but I mean, a half an hour early is much too early, especially if sometimes if you're coming late and I've stayed past 7 p.m. and then I've got to come in at 6:30 a.m. I mean, that's pretty burdensome on me to have to do that.
Maybe a half hour is, just talking, but, whatever, but, sometime, like if, at the end of the shift, or at the beginning of your shift or whatever.
But, I just had a thought, sort of to maybe combine the sticky note idea and the coming in earlier, that face-to-face time is, maybe we could have, we know we have all these other logs of things that happen, but those are kind of for the plant operations. But maybe have just a log for the managers, so that you could just briefly write in there, instead of on sticky notes, things that have, exceptional things that have happened on your shift that maybe will impact the next shift that I might want to know about, and then we wouldn't have to come early or stay late necessarily.
Well, what kinds of things,
Too
I like
much.
that idea too, but I want to know what kinds of things you're talking about when you say exceptional things, because he said, that I might want to know about, and I don't know always what you want to know, but I can see where it'd be something like, where that motor burned out.
Right, right.
That's pretty obvious, but if,
So what's the
you want me to
range
explain
of-
how the stain got on the middle of the table in the dining room or something like that, that's,
Well, I
I
guess.
mean, how am I supposed to
yeah.
guess that's something you wanna talk about?
Well, maybe what could happen is, if you do, I guess, exceptional, use that as sort of like the word for what goes into this little book, and then if I find something that I want to know information about, I'll write it in mine and say, let me know what happened with this, or
So, like, you could ask
I'll
questions
meet
and
you 10 minutes to 7 tomorrow morning, and we can talk about this because I have a question about it, or something like that.
Oh, I kinda like that better than, like we were talking about every morning, having a
Right.
meeting, because, you know, most days, things are running smoothly, everything's, you know,
So if
I
something,
have a good day, and that's all you need to talk about. So this would be kinda like making an appointment almost, saying, we've got some
Can I
things I
get
wanna
some
talk
time?"
about, maybe tomorrow morning, I'll come in a little early.
Right.
That sounds good.
And I think if the person who wants to talk about it, it should be on the burden on them to make time to come in early. I don't want to have to stay any later than I already do sometimes.
now, if something happened like happened with that screen again,
Mhm.
is it enough that you simply write an explanation, sorry we didn't get to the screen because we had this? I mean, you don't always have to set up an appointment with each other, do you?
Right, no.
Sounds, yeah, to
So
me
it
that
could
sounds
be
right.
minimal as well as explanatory, or asking for time if you felt like it had more need for explanation.
Yeah, and that sounds good too, because, I mean, I don't wanna duplicate all the other stuff that we
No.
write, all these other lots, but,
No.
you know, you could say something in there like, you know, this thing has been acting up, watch for it, if it starts to do this, you're gonna run into trouble or something, because that's happened a couple of times where I've heard on a day shift, they've had trouble with something that we kinda knew was coming, because,
Right.
you know, things get old and start to wear out.
There could be ways you could complement each other too. You could put comments in support of each other in there too.
I'm not gonna be drawing happy faces.
I know. I was gonna say, I'm not sure about that.
It's a shortcut.
It's a warm, fuzzy place.
Let's think about this for a minute, Randy. Let's say, you know, you've been there for 12 hours, and maybe it's been a particularly exhausting day. Things have gone wrong with some of the equipment. It's been dirty, it's been messy, it's been long, it's been hard. Certain things maybe weren't done the way they should have been done because of lack of time. You're just
A typical day, huh?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you're just beat and you really can't wait to go home and take a shower, get in bed for a while. Think you're gonna open this journal up and write
Oh,
your
sure,
message?
yeah, this is a good idea.
Okay, so you'll do it.
Uh-huh, yeah.
Well, great. Maybe we can move on to some of these other agenda items.
Yeah, I think that's.
You know, I sort of need a break though, a little bit,
Yeah.
just to stretch.
We spend a lot of time going over the specifics of this, and, yeah.
So let's just take about 10 minutes and we can come
This
back and
is good.
see what more of these we can do.
Okay. I guess.
Is there a Coke machine?
Yeah, right?
Okay, the mediation continued, as you've been seeing it, and the mediators and the parties went through all the other issues and interests on this list. And then when they finished discussing them and reaching some agreement on them, they drafted an agreement. And right now, Betsy is reading the agreement to the parties. There's still 2 clauses that she hasn't gone over with the parties yet. Betsy, you want to take over from here?
Okay, and the next part of the agreement that we wrote up based on what you decided was that both Randy and Becky acknowledged that the event with the Playboy calendar occurred and that it is behind them. Becky recognizes that Randy did not post the calendar as an act of sexual harassment. Randy regrets the impact his actions had on Becky and agrees to comply with plan policy.
Okay.
And then the last part had to do with the lunchroom. Randy and Becky agree that they and their workers will clean up after themselves, and that the weekend supervisors and their workers will clean up after themselves as well. Becky and Randy also agree to keep the lunchroom clean.
That's good.
I think we've covered all the
Yeah.
issues and reached agreement on all of them. So congratulations on working so hard. It's been a really productive morning.
Yeah, took a little longer than 3 hours, but we're able to work through all
Well,
those
we
issues.
appreciate
so.
your help.
Yeah, thank you.
We're glad that Ralph sent you to us, and we'll be sending him, as well as you, a copy of this agreement, like we talked about before.
Okay.
So thank you so much for
Thanks for all
coming
your hard
and for working
work.
so hard.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Very nice meeting you.
Nice
Best of
to
luck.
meet you.
Nice to meet you. Randy?
Thank you for your help.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Okay, right this way.
Good afternoon.
Hey Betsy, good job.
Yeah, hey, it worked pretty well. We're kind of a team.
Yeah.
Yeah.